Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our webinar Wednesday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephen Phelps, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Acumen. And today we brought in our very own Nick Nabosny, who is the head of our Sage Intacct practice, and today he'll be giving you a demonstration on the reporting tool Sage Intacct Interactive Custom Report Writer. Before we begin, please note that all attendees will be in listen-only mode, and if you have any questions, then please use the chat option and we will answer them near the end of the presentation. We have a lot to cover in 1 hour, so I will now pass it on to Nick.
Thanks very much, Stephen, and thanks everyone for attending this afternoon. As Stephen mentioned, my name is Nick Nabosny. I'm the Intacct Practice Director here at Acumen. And this afternoon, we're going to talk about one of the newer additions or tools in the Intacct suite, and it's called the Interactive Custom Report Writer. It was actually released back in 2018, R4, which is the fourth quarterly release of 2018. And it adds quite a bit of functionality and flexibility to the custom report writer that is built into the core of Sage Intacct. It also adds a bit of ability to pull in additional transactional information, additional data, additional views of complex information that you might want in and above the financial reporting tool that I know most of you on this call are probably using on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. So the Interactive Custom Report Writer is part of Sage Intacct, right? So it is a subscription that you can add. It can pull in transactional data, but what it allows you to do that's different from financials and different from the custom report writer is allow you to really interact with it, meaning tweak reports on the fly, export reports, share reports across the organization. And we'll take a look at how to do all of those things this afternoon. Now, when would the Interactive Custom Report Writer be a good fit, right? Because you do have two very powerful report writing tools available to you as part of the core application, the Financial Reporter, of course, and the Custom Report Writer. I think this is a good fit when you might want to pull or write or generate transactional information. We're moving in a technology today to a place where we want more business intelligence, and we really want to be able to look at our businesses in different ways and leverage the power of the data and especially the dimensions in Intacct. And so when I want to do that with transactional and operational reports, the Interactive Custom Report Writer, or ICRW, we use an acronym just like we do for everything else here at Acumen. ICRW is a really good fit. It allows for dynamic output, and what I mean by that is it's a WYSIWYG tool, and that means what you see is what you get. It's an editor or a program that allows you to build and see the report, see the output as you actually create the report, and you'll see that when we take a look at building a report together. I'm able to actually pivot and filter data easily, meaning I don't have to even know how to do pivot tables. I don't have to understand them. I don't have to know how to link tables together. It's going to do that heavy lifting or that work for me. And as I said, you can interact with it, and it's in the name, right? So I can drag and drop columns. I can group things, subtotal, format things, add calculations into columns. This adds the ability to do more complex column calculations than the custom report writer allows you to do. So again, another area where this tool might come into play when you can't do something in the custom report writer. I'm able to do time comparison and trend reporting for longer periods of time that I may want to group into buckets of time or reporting periods like quarters, months, years. This is a good tool for that because it has functions to just do that for you, summarize those up. I don't have to do complex calculations in something like a Crystal or an Excel to build that. Now, I can drill down to source transactions. We'll take a look at that today. You can do that in the Financial Reporter. You can do that in the Custom Report tool, but that's also here, also available in ICRW. And then lastly, as you might expect and might really need, you can export these reports to PDF, to Excel, to PowerPoint, so you can use them in other areas of the business and distribute them in various different ways across the organization. Now, as I said, this is a separate subscription. This is not part of the core like the custom report writer is, but there's two flavors or two different levels of the ICRW subscription. So it really is designed to kind of benefit all customers. First is the builder license, where you may have someone in-house who's a power user or who understands and wants to be able to build or create your own reports. That's great. You can buy the builder license. You can build as many different reports as you want. You can take the reports that come out of the box, copy them, edit them, make them your own. But there's also what's called a viewer license, which means, maybe you don't have someone that wants to build reports, but you'd like to take advantage of some of the powerful reports that they've included with this tool. With a viewer license, they do allow partners such as Acumen to build reports for you guys. So our reporting team, our consultants have built reports for clients that we can include in the reporting subscription to give you to add to your library. So we're going to look at that today and see, there's about 80 different reports available out in the library, and we're adding to that, every quarter as there are new releases. Before we actually get into the product itself, I want to talk about a few of the different components or pieces or areas of the tool so that we can better understand some of the terminology. So when I'm building a report here, and this will, we'll go through this and you'll see this when we build some reports and run some reports together. But first we have what's called the reporting area. And think of that as a library of data. And what I mean by that is if I pick or select AP bills, it's going to bring in all of the information that is in Intacct related to an AP bill and related to any of the codes or fields used on an AP bill. What do I mean by that? So of course, on an AP bill, I might have an AP account. I might have the title of that account. I might have the vendor, right? I might have the date, the payment, the base amount, the currency. But I may also come down and code that to a dimension, right? I know lots of you on here are coding to dimensions and using the power of dimensions in Intacct. So maybe I want to know the description on that dimension. Maybe I want to look up something about that vendor that I used, and maybe I need their address on this report, or maybe I want their phone number so I can easily contact them if I'm running an AP aging report here. Okay, what they do for you is include all of that in the reporting area, AP bills. So if I select that, I don't have to worry about linking in GL tables or AP vendor tables or anything like that. That's all done for you. That's one of the beauties, of using this particular tool. Underneath a reporting area is a folder or folders where they break down areas containing fields. So I might have attributes, which might be kind of text-based fields, right? Like account number, vendor ID, vendor name. And then of course I have measure columns or measured fields where I might have amounts, stats, debits, credits, dollar numeric values that I might want to add to a report. I might want to use in calculations, or I may want to, include in pivot tables and build some powerful kind of calculations into my report. So now that we understand kind of the areas or the components or the sections of an interactive custom report, let's actually close PowerPoint and take a look at the product. I didn't want to spend the entire time in PowerPoint. I really want to get in and show you the actual tool. Now, today, I'm not going to, spend an entire hour showing you every single report and really expect you to walk away today knowing exactly how to use this, right? It's not going to be a full training, but I certainly would like to, make sure you understand what's available, how you can use it, the power of the tool, and why it might be a good fit for your organization. To do that, I thought first we might take a look at some of the different reports that are in the system, run them, kind of experiment with them, and see how we can tweak them to make them fit our needs. So the first report I'd like to run is the AP Vendor Aging Summary and Bill Details Report. Now, I'm sure all of you, if not most of you, are running this aging report in Intacct in accounts payable, right? And filtering it in summary or filtering it in detail. And it's a nice report. What this report does, and it's a report that's out of the box, it's included with ICRW, is really combines that so that I can run this report and see both the summarized version of the aging and also the details of the aging. So let's go ahead and select all of our currencies. So I do have a multi-currency environment here. I do have a prompt set up so I can select my currencies, and I'll say view. Excuse me. And what I see on the left-hand side is what you might expect in the vendor aging in summary, right? I can see individual vendors where I can click on their name. And what you're seeing on the right-hand side is actually the detail report showing all of the outstanding invoices in detail here. So I'm getting that detail for each of the individual vendor balances. Now I could always, of course, come over here, because this is actually a second report linked to the first report based on the vendor number. So I can drive over here. I can select vendors if I want to and see what we owe Lee Thomas, see what we owe Christofferson Consulting, and see that detail. But I can interact with it, right, by selecting the vendor that I'm looking at here on the left-hand side. So again, adding the ability to do combined reports, linking summary and detailed information based on the vendor number. Now, perhaps I might want to, go further here, and maybe I'd like to only look at my US dollar transactions. So remember, this is an interactive reporting tool, right? So if I right click here on my column, which is currency, and I want to move this up to the prompts section. And what it's going to do is dynamically move that up to the top, where now I can select that as a filter. And now I see all of my US dollar transactions or all of my Canadian dollar transactions dynamically. And maybe that's not what I wanted. I could go ahead and just put that back down here and drag and drop it, right? So it's that WYSIWYG, as I'm making changes, it's dynamically refreshing for me so I can see what I'm doing. Perhaps I want to move the vendors to the sections, or move the vendors up to not prompts, but sections. So we see groupings for the vendors with a subtotal for every particular vendor. Maybe I'd like to see the aging that way. Okay, so I've taken one report that is a canned report. It comes with the subscription, and I've now, just changing a couple settings, I've run it 3 or 4 different ways. Of course, I could save this so it, it remembers the layout that I like, and just run that each time. Now going back, take a look at another option, another report that comes out of the box. Sticking with accounts payable for now, let's look at the AP bills analysis with subtotals report. So again, I'm going to go ahead and run this report, but if I wanted to, I could export it. Excuse me, apologies. I could export the report. I can add it to a menu here in accounts payable if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and just run the report. It will prompt me for any prompts that I have, and this one didn't have any. Okay. And what this is really showing me here is broken down by my dimensions, right? So I have a department dimension. You might have a cost center, a department, employee, a property, a division, a region, whatever the dimensions are in your Intacct organization. This is grouped and broken down into department. And this one actually has drill down in it. So if I wanted to see a copy of this particular invoice, I can click on the link here and it will open up the actual accounts payable screen to where that AP invoice was entered. So just like if I clicked on it in the payables list, I can do that from a report because it's interactive. I can drill down to the data. I can see that it was paid. I could launch the attachment if I had it here. I can see how it was actually coded in the system. So all of that, coming directly from that report. Now, another report that a lot of clients really like to use is the GL account activity report. But before we go there, let's talk about where we might get that report. So out of the box, the tool, the product comes with about 80 reports right now. And as I mentioned, every single quarterly release, Sage is adding more reports to this list. So I can click on the report library up here on the top right, and I can see all of the different reports that come out of the box. And it's actually up to 81 here that are out of the box. And there are some for most of the different modules, lots of different payables, receivables, cash balance reports, contracts, GL reports, order entry, purchasing, projects reports. So covering all of the different major modules in Sage Intacct. Now, we do a lot of work in the general ledger, right? And ultimately everything ends up in the general ledger. So a common report, you certainly can run the GL transaction listing or the GL general ledger out there, but this is a report showing GL account activity. And I may want to run this and again, interact with it and show things in different ways, group it differently. Again, I have a few different prompts here where I may want to look at users who have entered specific transactions. Maybe I want all users, so I'll just leave that one. Perhaps I'm looking for just a particular cost of sales account or a particular wages account, and maybe I don't want to see, all of the different accounts. Maybe I only want balance sheet accounts so I can focus on cash, or I'm looking for P&L accounts. So I can leave the whole account range, but just select my account type, income statement accounts. And I'm going to go ahead and run this for a date range in 2019, because that's the dates that my sample data lives in. So, and then again, another one I put in is where we could have an amount between. So if I was looking for something, that's about $10,000, I might go from 0 to $12,000 or something like that. And I'll see anything, I'll see anything that's in that range. Okay. I don't know what my exact numbers are, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger so we definitely get some data here, and I'll go ahead and view. And we'll run this GL activity report. And then what we're going to do is kind of, again, interact with it, see, how we might want to use this in different manners. So right now, it's a pretty long report because I've selected a whole bunch of different accounts. I've selected a big period of time. Perhaps I want to, again, now I want to look at who did a particular transaction. So I'm going to move the user up to the prompts here, and we'll look for, I'm logged in as Emma. Maybe I'm looking for journal entries that I've done. Maybe again, I want to look at accounts that are grouped together, or I want to prompt for a particular specific date range or specific journal in the system, right? So I can move more than one section up to the prompts. Looking at Emma's transactions that were posted to a particular journal, like the general ledger journal. and I've only posted one here for professional fees expense. And just like we saw in AP, I do have the ability to drill down into that transaction here from the GL and see the actual journal entry. Okay, so we've now kind of looked at a few of the different reports. We've talked about the reports library and what comes out of the box with the tool. We've talked about, a few different reports and how you can start to interact with them and use them in the system once you have this subscription activated in your account. What I thought we'd do next is really talk about, maybe building a small report so you can see what that might look like. And we won't do anything crazy or anything fancy today. I'm not, again, going to get too deep into the weeds today, but by all means, if this is something you're interested in, feel free to reach out and be happy to do a deeper dive or show you specific reports that might fit your organization or that you might be looking for, and certainly go, much deeper on an individual basis if you'd like to. But let's go ahead and create a custom report. So I'm going to go to my reports section here, and we're going to go to interactive custom reports. And I'm going to click the add button. And I just started this and gave it a name just to speed things up ever so slightly. And you may remember this now from our PowerPoint, right, where we have our reporting area up here, which is accounts payable bills. Then I have my folders. I have my attributes where we're pulling in text type data, my dimensions and my measures. And remember, I said it links everything else for you, right? So under AP, if I'm looking for something about the GL account or about the entity I'm in or about a specific allocation we've used or anything about the bill or about the vendor, all of those are going to be available in related objects down here. I can always search for things. So if I was looking for vendor ID, and I don't know if it's vendor ID or vendor number or vendor name, I can type and search, and it's going to go through all of those different folders and find that information for me and allow me to pull in, any of the fields I want. Now, it's actually searching, so sometimes you have to wait. It's searching all of the different fields and takes a second or two to pull that information up. But as soon as I type that in, it's going to pull that information back for me. Once we do that, we're going to start to add some fields to our report. And I can do that by double clicking. I can do that by drag and drop, as we talked about. I think there's vendor probably 20 times here, so we'll give it a second. There we go. So I might be looking for vendor, vendor name, vendor ID, vendor from the AP account, vendor from the contact, right? So every time the word vendor is there, it's now pulled that in for me. And we're just going to do an AP bill detail report. So we may want to know our vendor ID. So I'm going to double click and it's going to bring that information into the report for me, right? And we said it's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So as I double click and add fields, it's writing and showing and drawing the report for me in real time. So it's bringing that information in so I can see it as I'm building it. Now, I might want to know how much this bill is, right? If it's just a list of bills, I might want to look at the actual base amount, right? And bring that in so I can see the total amount of all of the bills for each of the different vendors. Maybe I want to bring in the vendor invoice number, right? Or the department that I've coded that particular line to. So now you see it instantly splits, right? Because I may have coded this invoice to Singleton Brothers or certain invoices to Singleton Brothers into different multiple departments. And maybe I don't know the department number, so I'm going to exclude that. And I'd rather have the department name. That makes more sense to me. So I'm double clicking and bringing that over. Maybe I want to know, did we post any of these to customers? Because maybe I want to filter that and look for very specific bills that were related to a customer and what that might look like. So maybe we want to look at dimensions, right? And see for a particular department or a particular project or a particular vendor, what's going on with this particular transaction. Now, I can then go in and add prompts. I can prompt for certain vendors. I can prompt for date ranges. I can turn this into a time-based pivot table. If I am a power user, I can get pretty technical with this tool, because while it does do a lot of this linking and all of this part for you, if I did want to get under the hood and start to write my own SQL, start to build very complex reports, it can do that. It can go along and support a really power user that may want to pull in specific data from two different tables that may not be linked at all for whatever reason. So that's actually possible. And you could do reports like pay when paid. So maybe on an AP bill, you want to pay your vendor when your customer pays you for an invoice that's related. So you can put in a reference field to link the two together and run a report that says, okay, show me which AP bills can be paid when a customer has paid their bill that's related to this vendor bill. So those are the neat things you can do with this kind of tool. Some of those last things like, the SQL and stuff, that is more technical. And certainly that's something the team here at Acumen can help with. There is the ability to write reports and export them out to your environment. You can export what we call the report definition and import that into your company. So, we have reporting subscriptions where there are reports we've written that we can copy up to you. We can write specific custom reports for you and export them and copy them into your environment. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break here and see if there's any questions, because as I said, I want to keep this at a fairly high level today, and I don't want to get too deep and too technical, but more than happy to spend some time with anyone on the call and get into the details and review these together. But Stephen, would you mind taking a look to see if any questions have come in? And please remember that everyone is muted, but go ahead and use the chat or the Q&A to put in any questions you might have.
Yes, so we did have a few questions that came in. One that came in says, can you create and filter by custom fields?
Great question. And the answer is yes. So if I minimize this for just a second, any of the reports, any of the custom fields I might add on, say, a vendor, right? So if I go to vendors and I open up my ADP vendor here, and maybe I've created a custom field where you went to object definition and you created a field called vendor's favorite color, those would absolutely be available in the interactive custom report writer. Great question.
Thanks, Nick. Another one came in. It says, is there a way in the custom report writer to compare customer balance at the end of the month and then due balance month to date?
Is there a way in the customer report writer to compare the customer balance at the end of the month and the customer balance month to date? So we'd want to see basically as of today and as of the end of the month, or as of a specific period. So if I'm understanding that correctly, we could prompt for a date and calculate a balance due. Oops, let's go back here for a second. Calculate a balance due in one column through the particular date, and then a balance due for the entire month in another column? Hopefully I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. If that's the question you're asking, we could do two different columns and prompt kind of transactions through a specific date and then transactions through the end of the month, because I can use reporting periods in the tool. So if not, we'll certainly follow up with you and see if we can answer that any differently or add any information to that for you.
Thanks, Nick. Another one came in. It says, for GL entries, can you create a report which shows the user who created and the user who posted an entry?
Yes. So, and actually those are some of the CAN reports: GL posting productivity, GL postings by user in detail, GL postings by user in summary, where I can run anything a particular user did, and I want to select Andrew or Emma or one of the particular users in the system and see, for maybe a range of accounts or everything she's done. Let's go out to 01/01/01 to 12/31/19 and view and see all of the report, all the transactions that Emma did or posted in the system.
Thank you. And it looks like we have two more that came in. But if you guys do have any more questions, please feel free to type them in. One that says you can do pre-built reports, but is there a way to start from zero with a report?
Yes. So, and we basically did that when we looked at my AP demo report for the AP bill demo. But if I say add and start from scratch, I can say, do I want to create a new report from scratch, or do I want to create a report from existing report where I might want to kind of leverage what I've done here, but add a few different components to it, or different pieces, or different columns, or change the grouping. But if I want to start from scratch, what I do is say, okay, let's pick the reporting area. And this is where it's going to pull in that information that's going to be relevant about AR invoices, or relevant about bank deposits, or contracts, or GL detail, right? So I pick the reporting area, and I call this Nick's AP report. Just like in the financial reporter and the custom reporter, I can set up a report audience and a report type to help me with security and visibility and who has access to this. But I'll say create report. Oops, sorry, it doesn't like the apostrophe. We'll create the report. And this is all I did for the AP bill demo so far. And I just took us there without putting the name in it. But now I can start to go in and add fields to this report. So if I want to pull in the vendor information, the department, the base amount, any of those fields, I can now start to pull in here by vendor. And I'm just double clicking, right, or dragging and dropping. Oops, I don't want dimensions, I want measures. And I'd like to pull in what we owe and start to build that information in. So great question.
Thanks, Nick. And then looks like the last one that came in, it says, can you export data out to Excel?
You can. So when we have a report, and we'll kind of go away from our report that we're doing here. So let's take a look at our bills analysis with subtotals report again. And I can run this and scroll down to the bottom, and it's going to be at the bottom of every one of your reports. There is a refresh and an export button where I can export this to Excel, to PowerPoint, to just data, right? So I want a CSV or a tab delimited format. If I'm going to write a report and export it so I can import with another system, a lot of clients will use this tool for something like that. Export out to PDF if it's a report that the board needs, but we want it to be pretty and not being able to be modified. I could go out to, say, a PDF report, right, that they can look at and not change. So lots of different ways to export the report.
Perfect. And I think that's all the questions we have that came in. I can go ahead and wrap up early. So again, thank you all for joining us today. If you do have any additional questions, then please reach out to your assigned account manager, or you can email us at am@acumenfl.com. This webinar will be recorded, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, along with following us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook to see the latest Sage content. Again, we thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar Wednesday.